What's up, you guys? Welcome back to WideBody Nation. As some of you guys may know, especially if you follow us on Instagram at the real WideBody Nation, my C8 Corvette, my 2020 C8, is at Cicio Performance to get the full twin turbo kit installed. And no, they're not just slapping on some turbos and calling it a day. It is the full 9 yards. Cooling, transmission upgrades, secondary fuels. I'm going to explain the whole thing in today's video on the computer so that in the future, in a couple of weeks when we do the reveal, you guys know what it's actually packing under the metal, under the hood, under the rear deck lid, if you will. And there's tons of different ways people are going about it too. A lot of you guys might have questions about the ECU, about the tuning, and so much more. So that this video is going to answer a lot of those questions and then bring up some further questions that we're going to need to get answered in the future. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You know, we do a lot of Mopar content on here, a lot of buying and selling, a lot of money related stuff, but we are focusing on the Corvette for this video. Now we're going to start on Instagram. This is the ETS Extreme Turbo Systems Corvette that allegedly they claim ran low nines the other day, and here is the time slip, and they actually show it in the video. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but I'm just showing you the run. Up until now, C8s were running really anywhere in the nines. High nines was more common, and then mid nines was some of your, Amelia Hartford, obviously popular YouTuber. She was running low nines, and then you have Fuel Tech as well. Fuel Tech was running in the mid nines, and then really after that, you just had a couple of shop C8s. Cicio Performance, which is where I'm getting mine done. Cicio Performance here in Alpharetta, Georgia, just north of Atlanta, partnered up with ETS Extreme Turbo Systems in Washington State, and they co-developed this rear-mounted twin turbo kit, which I'll show you here very quickly, and then I'll actually explain to you what all comes in these different kits, and then we'll also talk about how some other companies are going about it, because it is very, very different. As with many cars, there's a lot of different options, but with these C8s, it seems like everybody's taking different angles on accomplishing this, the power adder problem. So as you guys can see, they did it Lambo style. That's Cicio, Performance, and ETS. You have the rear-mounted turbos, so they have them right here, all set up, and then they're adding all of the, the dump pipes from the wastegate. They have the exhaust coming out right here, very short exhaust coming off the turbos. Then they have the up pipes back in. They have the oil scavenge pump, and we'll get into this a little farther. And then this bottom one, they added the air filters and buttoned up a few extra things. So, Cicio Performance's website, and all this will be linked below in the description. And in the pinned comment, I'll probably have my normal, promotional things with your free stocks. With Webull, that's my favorite stock trading app. That's what I use on my phone mainly. You should get at least 2 free stocks. Sometimes they run more. And some other offers down there. Make sure you guys get your defund the EPA merchandise as well, because the EPA wants to stop us from doing these cool things to our cars. Now, Cicio's website is very clean and crisp, but it does not explain necessarily everything. So we'll actually go over to Extreme Turbo Systems website after this, which will show you guys a lot more dyno graphs. It will show you guys every single part more or less, and it lists them out. So I am getting the C900 package, which, as you guys can see, is the full turbo system, an air-to-water intercooler, a full secondary fuel system, which runs E85 or whatever they really tune it for. And then there's also the Motec piggyback ECU, which brings up how are we tuning the car, right? Clutch will need to be up. If you are pushing any more than like bolt-on, headers, exhaust, and intake on a C8, you're going to need to upgrade those clutches and make sure you add that extra transmission fluid. That is the consensus on the street, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of launches or track days. Why GM didn't add the extra 2 quarts of transmission fluid? I think they're just being cheap. So GM, that's a call out. You guys are cheap. So all of this is cool. I will show you guys all the parts list in a second. So Cicio also offers the C700 package and the C600 package. Now the way they name these is basically how much roughly crank horsepower. I believe they're going by the crank horsepower because from my understanding, the C900 package, depending on how they tune it and how your car takes it, should be in the 700 to 800 horsepower to the rear wheel range. That is just my understanding. Obviously, we will see how that turns out. I'll show you guys the dyno graph when it comes up, and that's how they've named it down through and through. So let's jump over to the Extreme Turbo Systems ETS website. This dyno chart, I believe, is for their entire, every single thing they could throw at the car. And keep in mind, these are dyno numbers too. It's not like they're doing this over and over and over and over again. So, you know, on a dyno, you could just sit there and tune it to the moon, but then for the street, they would probably turn it down, at least in my opinion. So it looks like peak horsepower, they're making just over 1,038, and max torque, they're making a little over 900, so 923. Obviously, a very, very impressive for for the ECU not being technically tunable. And that is going to kind of jump off into what actual hardware you get when you go ahead and spend between $14,000 and $18,000 or more on ETS's website. So this is the main turbo kit setup. As we kind of already pointed out, we have our exhaust, we have our wastegate dump pipe, we have our up pipe that goes from the headers to the turbo, and then you have your cones, you have your oil scavenge, you have a lot of hardware right here, some extra lines, blah blah blah, some wastegates obviously, and then your turbos. Obviously, whichever turbos you pick affects the price too. The cheapest option is to go non-intercooled, and the Precision Turbo 64 size turbos, I believe there's 64 66s if I remember correctly, but that's just off the cuff. Now when you see this intercooled or non-intercooled option changing the price from $13,900 to $17,900, your $4,000 is going towards this intercooler kit, which changes the C8 from the normal air intake box on the C8, actually goes and gets changed into an air to water intercooler, and I believe you can even put ice in. I believe it has an ice tank from what I have seen on the multiple Corvettes I have seen in person, twin turbo Corvettes, and ridden in Cicios at their shop as well. Here's a closer up picture of that. Like I said, it actually goes where the airbox is, and I'll actually show you guys. Let me go real quick. Did I post it? I think we're going to be digging down through the timeline a little too much. The C8, my twin turbo C8 will be at Scary Fest 2021, which is October 30th, right before Halloween, at Memphis International Raceway. So make sure you guys check that out, and I will see you guys there, hopefully. Back to the build, though. Let's see. So there is the install right there. Not as good of a picture of what's going on. Let's see. Let me see if I can show you guys where. Okay, so on the C8, the air intake is at the back. That's a reel. The air intake is at the. We'll just use this. So the intake is right in the trunk, in front of the trunk, right where the motor is. So with that being said, that is where the intercooler goes, and the fan for the intercooler actually goes in the side vent, I believe, that is not used, because you guys know how the C8 has those two crazy side vents, and one of them is used and one of them isn't. This goes on the side that is not used, I believe. So you might be saying, okay, that's cool. Intercooler, turbos, piping, air filters, wastegates. Okay, that's cool. But how are you tuning this? Where is all that shenanigans, and where's that fuel system that you were talking about? So this is their solution, and this is pretty new to their website. It was not up when I first went ahead and ordered all this. Obviously, Cicio Performance ordered it for me because it helps them out, and it also, in theory, speeds up the ordering. So this is Motec. Many of you guys might know Motec from racing, from rally cars. Like the Subaru guy in me was like, oh, Motec. They use these on Porsches a lot. Cicio loves using these on Porsches, apparently. I don't know what they use for GTR tuning, so I won't speak to that. So here's your Motec package. I've heard that these run between $4,000 and $5,000 for this model. It's combined in this package, so I couldn't tell you exactly. This is the secondary fuel system that actually takes the place of that kind of notorious now engine cover. And so this is actually, it's got a spot for all 8 secondary injectors. You get your fuel rails and all the necessary hardware right here for you to run anywhere from 1050s to 1300cc to, I believe this kit apparently comes with 1700s. I don't know if mine is coming with 1700s though. I think they'd be 1050s or 1300cc injectors. I mean, we're only going to be pushing probably 800-ish horsepower to the wheels, so it already has, it's already direct injected with 93 octane, so I've heard fueling isn't that big of an issue right now. Here is your front tank, your auxiliary fuel tank that goes in the frunk. So if you see a C8 with something in the frunk that looks like a fuel tank, that's kind of your giveaway that might be packing a little something else, even if you can't see the turbos out back. Let's keep going here. And then here's just extra wiring, fuel system stuff. And then obviously you guys have all seen injectors before, so nothing new there. No real options, it looks like. This one does come with the ID 1700s, it looks like, so that's included in the price. So $14,000 plus $18,000 for the intercooled setup. That's about $32,000 in just parts. If you're gonna go the full 9 yards, which they obviously do recommend. There's your whole, Motec. There we go. Pretty much all this beep boop bop boop stuff. And then you have ETS auxiliary fuel system. I'm very excited for the auxiliary fuel tank. I think that is super cool. Corvette fuel line kit. Very good, very good. And then this intake manifold is the thing that I was really kind of in the dark on. Back when I ordered, they had no pictures of this. The only place I had seen it was ETS's actual cars and then on Cicio's car. So you got your fuel pressure regulator, you got your gauges, and then you have your rails. Good to go. Obviously the manifold itself, and then you got your injectors. So all pretty new stuff, folks. It is definitely a lot of money in parts and then labor on top of that. You guys may or may not know these C8s are pretty tricky to work on in some ways and pretty easy in other ways. So, we will have to see how that goes. My Corvette is currently there. Should be going under the knife any day now. And then, 1 to 2 weeks, hopefully, of build and tune time. And then we should be rocking. I believe this kit actually comes with a free set of New Balances. Don't fact check me on that, but you guys may or may not see some OG Dad New Balances coming to the channel sometime soon. So let's talk about some questions. So tuning, number 1. I'm going to address the way my car is being, I guess, tuned, or, whatever you want to call it. So we talked about the Motec. The Motec is allowing us to control, boost. It's allowing us to control fueling, that secondary system. But it is not necessarily, and we're going to talk about built engines in a second because a lot of people have been asking me about built engines, and we have to get to that soon. The Motec, from the way it's been explained to me, with it being a piggyback or a secondary ECU, the normal ECU and basically the normal ECU tuning that came from the factory stays intact, which in some ways is beneficial because it kind of keeps drivability of the car normal-ish, because if the Motec doesn't sense that you are commanding that extra throttle, that extra desired boost, that extra desired power, then it kind of just chills. From my understanding, it's just kind of there. And then if you press the go pedal, if you want to get some, whether you're doing it from a dig or from a race or like from a roll race, that's when the secondary ECU takes over. The big thing, I'm not really concerned about fueling or anything like that. It's more the transmission tuning that I've heard is both smart and tricky, because I believe, from my understanding, these cars kind of relearn what you do to them more or less. Again, we're gonna have to hear it from the horse's mouth. Once they tune my car, I'll give you guys a refresh on that. But right now, to my knowledge, no one has legitimately cracked the ECU on these C8 Corvettes. So everybody is forced to kind of do it their own way, whether they're doing a standalone, like a Hellcat or a Holly, or they're doing a fuel tech, or they're doing a Motec piggyback. Everybody kind of has their own way, and a lot of the twin turbo C8s that you guys may or may not know of, some of them are kind of just twin turbo. They're not really twin turbo running and driving, fire breathing monsters. Like Amelia Hartford's is obviously rocking down the drag strip. Cicio Performances and ETSs and Fuel Techs are obviously out there racing. But a lot of the YouTubers that had the first twin turbo C8s way back in the day, you know, about a year ago, those were literally like a bolt-on kit. They bolted on some pipes, they bolted on some turbos, and that was about it. I'm not going to call anybody out because like they were the first ones to do it, and props to them. They have much bigger followings, all that, blah, blah, blah. But that is why those cars weren't out there ripping up and putting down low 9s or even into the 8s. All right. That is pretty much it for the C8 on paper. You've got all your piping, you got your turbos, you got that whole package, then you got your tuning and your fuel system. Then you have the Datsun Motorsports clutch upgrade. That is the transmission upgrade that everybody keeps kind of talking about more or less. They're trying out some even heavier duty clutches on these cars, and that's one of those things that's limiting the cars. The last thing we'll get to is some cars you guys will see are doing a built motor, but most of the cars I know of are not putting a big cam or anything crazy in as far as that goes, because I don't believe they have any control over that. So most people are when they say I have a built motor for a C8, it's really just the internals, redoing bearings, pistons, rods, which is good. Don't get me wrong. It's just like they're not going in with an LT2, a base model LT2 and then coming out with a huge cammed LT2 that alone would be pushing way, way more. It's more about durability that they're building these motors for, not necessarily any significant performance gains yet. So that is going to be interesting to see when we can actually start doing stuff like that, because obviously everyone wants these cars to be running 8s and then in the 7s hopefully in the future, because I mean from the factory 495 horsepower was already kissing the high 10s on a super hot 90 plus degree day. My car was in the low 11s on stock rims which are heavy as all heck. So I need to get a set of forged drag radials for the rear to cut down on some of that unsprung weight for sure. That's pretty much it, guys. Make sure you guys check out the links below in the description. If you guys want to see Cicio's website or Extreme Turbo Systems website for any of this, definitely check it out. It's fun to just look around for sure. ETS also has a ton of different vehicles they support. Apparently they have turbo kits for the old Lamborghini, these Huracan turbo kits, which is pretty sweet. So I'm going to be looking at that after this video. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I will see you guys for the next video, and make sure you follow us on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.